with COVID, pursuant to the Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 3A, Section 20, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Town of Burlington Ways and Means Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public is permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen in or view this meeting while in progress may do so by turning into the BCAT Government Cable Access Channel, the BCAT Government Meetings Facebook Live feed, or over the phone 408-418-9388, meeting number 713-851-433. This contact information is also on the Town of Burlington calendar. We will make an effort to monitor comments on the Facebook Live feed, and if there are any comments, we may consider answering them. As a reminder to the board, all votes are required to be done by roll call for remote meetings. So this evening we have queued up several budgets. So let's start out with Department 210, the police budget. Mike, do you have some introductory remarks?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. So we have Kent here with us. I don't know if Mr. Tom Brown is also on, but
yeah, Tom's here.
Okay, so we have Chief and the Assistant Chief here, and Phil and I met a little while ago with the police department to review their budget. It was actually right before we stopped having our meetings, so it was probably about a month ago. And we reviewed the budget, and the subcommittee supports the budget 2-0. If you'd like, we can take a look at some of the documents that came with that. I'm looking right now at the Burlington Police Department budget narrative that Ken puts together each year. So he's got kind of the overview section where the overall budget is increasing 1.19%. And then we break down into some of the categories. Full-time salaries increasing by 1.06%. Part-time salaries are increasing a little bit more. That's due to mainly to a couple of positions that Chief is adding. We'll talk about it in a little bit. And the remainder of the budget is pretty much level funded. So I'm going to switch over now to looking at the actual first page of the budget itself. You can see grand total 1.19% increase. Salaries 1.32. On the part-time salaries, there were a couple of positions that were added that I sent out some information yesterday. They were my notes here. Why did that happen? Yeah, so there was a substance abuse counselor position that was added, as well as a, give me 1 second. Oh yeah, mental health clinician. So what these positions were, there were 2 positions that have been operating under a grant program. The grant is ending this year, and the chief asked to add these positions into the budget. We had pretty lengthy discussion on this, and I think some of the backup information that was sent out explains all the different activities that these 2 individuals did in their roles. And it's really been a huge benefit to citizens of Burlington, in addition to working very closely with the police department and offloading some of the work from the patrolmen and people that are responding to different situations around town. So I think, personally that they're doing a great job, and it's important that we continue those services. Both positions are part-time, unbenefited, 19 hours a week positions. And the substance abuse counselor is fully funded in this year's budget. The other one is the mental health clinician is only funded for the last 2 months of 2021, May and June. I think the way that the funding worked on that one from the grant. So then if we look really, the rest of the budget is, it's amazingly consistent with last year. There's basically everything is level funded under expenses and special accounts. So it was pretty clean budget. One thing I did want to mention, let's see, so we talked about contracts. The patrolman contract still is, I believe that's unsettled, so that is not reflected in the salaries here. So the overall, 1.19%, that will end up being higher when we do get that contract settled, but that'll come out of negotiated settlements at some point. The other contracts, the command contract, and I think it was BMEA, were settled, so those numbers are reflected in the full-time salaries. So I think that kind of covers the highlights of police.
All right. Chief Kent, do you have anything to add?
I think Mike did a nice job summary. The two positions, the recovery coach and mental health clinician, are unbenefited, 18-hour a week. And you've seen them firsthand through their grant for us on one of the different savings communities. So I'm excited that hopefully we'll get a positive vote here and be able to keep them on board as the grants will be running out. Otherwise, level funded as was requested. Yeah, that's Mike did a good job summarizing. I can answer any questions, as can Deputy Brown.
All right, great. Committee members, do you have questions? You may need to unmute your tool to say so.
If I may, one other thing, excuse me, this also is a half-year funding in here for that 5th police officer. The town meeting approved a 5-year plan 5 years ago. So this is the last year of that. So that is funded for 6 months in this budget. So it'll be starting in January 21. Excuse me. Other than that, level funded.
Okay, good. Questions?
Yes, please.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, it's just a curiosity question, really. On page 16, I noticed there was Devon's firing range there. I was just curious, is there something that our firing range isn't covering that we thought it would, or?
Okay, you broke up a little bit. I got Devon's firing range on 15. We're the district owned by the feds, and they charge a fee. Are you saying were you saying firing range maintenance?
No, I was sorry. I know the sound doesn't work so well sometimes. I was curious if there's something about our in-town firing range that we're not meeting what we expected to there.
No, this is for in the fall. So in the spring, we shoot in our range at the station, which was redone several years ago. Thank you very much, town meeting, Ways and Means Capital for that. In the fall, we need to shoot outside. to do more drills, more downstairs at the station here. It's more of a static qualifying, whereas in this fall, we use drills using cars, using movements and things of that nature. So Devon's is the facility we often use, and there is a fee associated with it.
Great, thank you.
Roger, I have a question. David
Yeah.
here.
David?
Hi, Chief. Just curious how the force is looking right now with everything that's going on and officers that are online, what the overtime budget is looking like. You've level funded that for next year, and we're not sure how long this is going to go. So not necessarily what it may do to the numbers this year that we may need to do, but will it push on the next year, and is that being looked at?
Well, it is being looked at, and obviously we also have the or the patrol contract got settled. So, the overtime hourly rate is going up. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that next year. Knock on wood, this year we're in very good shape. We haven't had any officers that we've been forced to put out with a positive test. We've had a couple out just on a precaution. Better safe than sorry, and we haven't seen any issues within the department. But the interesting part is right now is no one's using vacation time because there's really nothing to do. So my overtime is probably the lowest it's been the last few weeks, just because everyone's working and they probably don't want to be home with their family. Truth be told.
Great, thanks, Chief.
Good question.
All right, other questions?
Chairman, motion to approve.
Second,
Who was the second?
Mike.
Mike, thanks, Mike. We're going to do roll call vote. So Brad Bond,
Yes.
I didn't hear Diane on the phone. Is Diane here? I'm sorry, can you repeat? I didn't hear that very well. Doug Davison,
Yes.
Doug Tate,
Yes.
Frank Monaco,
Yes.
Gaia Cherie,
Yes.
John Eiler,
Yes.
Mike Hardy,
Yes.
Bill Gallagher, Sonia Rollins,
Yes.
Steve Warren,
Yes.
Susan Harrigan. I think I missed that. Susan? Sounds garbled. I think I heard yes.
Susan looks like she's muted.
Yeah.
Good point. Susan, how do you vote on the police budget?
Can't hear me?
Just barely, just so speak up. I think,
Yes.
thank you. Rob Neufeld is absent. All right. Are there any opposed? I guess we covered all that. Great. Voted in, sorry, 12 in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We always appreciate your support. And if any questions come up between now and town meeting, please reach out.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
very much.
Thank you.
All right. Say again? I'm not getting that. Can we move on to the fire budget? Is you as well, what, Mike Hardy?
Yes. Hey, Roger. I'm on the phone.
Okay, perfect. I was glad to hear you, Mike. I wasn't sure, but appreciate you calling in.
Absolutely. I got you on WebEx. I got no volume, so I jumped on the phone as well. So
Okay, all right.
Okay. So calling user 3 is also Mike Patterson.
All right. Sounds mysterious. So, yeah, we'll run through this. Again, Phil and I met with Mike and Andy to review their budget maybe a month ago or so. We supported that with a subcommittee vote of 2 in favor, 0 opposed. And what I would like to do is just run through the budget sheets, starting on the main page, page that has salaries and expenses, special accounts, grand total, et cetera. So if we take a look at the fire budget, the overall increase for this year is 2.68%. Taking a look at salaries, we see full-time salaries increasing 0.91%. And similar to the police department, that does not include the fire union at this point. So when that gets settled again, it'll be something that will flow through negotiated settlements. So the 0.91% really just reflects step increases and longevity at this point in time. Overtime was kind of a big increase here, as you can see, 16.49%. And that is due to a couple of things. One, just the collective bargaining agreement approved the rate for overtime has increased in terms of the hourly rate. But the main driver is due to some injuries that the department has had this year. There's been a significant number of firefighters that have gone out on long-term injuries, 6 to 12 months. So that is driving that overtime increase. Let's see now, if we go down into the expenses, pretty much the rest of the budget almost looks like level funded. One of the areas that kind of stands out is supplies. Is up 7%, and that was due to supplies that are more expensive due to paramedic level of services that the supplies are to be used for. So that drove an increase there. There was also some extra expense on gasoline, oil, and tires increased a little bit. Besides that, the budget is pretty much a level funded budget, and I think that mainly covers the highlights.
Great. Chief Patterson, do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, Mike pretty much covered everything from what I could hear. I mean, obviously, the biggest item is our overtime account. That signifies our biggest increase, and the primary reason why the budget's increasing by 2.68%. One of the things that Mike did not mention is one of the reasons for the overtime is that we've been running short-staffed. We're not at our full complement of 15 firefighters per shift. It's been like that pretty much this entire fiscal year. We've also been down a fire dispatcher for a significant portion of this fiscal year. So when we look at the overtime account for this coming fiscal year, we take a look at we take a look at what happened within the past year, and we make projections of what the future year will present. So we feel pretty confident that this number presented will suffice for the next fiscal year.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the committee have questions?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We'll do a roll call on
Sorry.
this one as well.
I'm sorry, Roger, I was muted. I do have a quick question, if that's okay.
Yes,
Even though-
please, go ahead.
Chief, just
Yes.
in the overtime budget again, Mike was mentioning that part of it was the disability portion and part of it was just the added OT. So I'm assuming at some point you're going to get your full complement of staff. What
Yes.
portion is the disability portion? Reason I'm asking is, should we be looking at alternative way? Do we want to set up this whole account in the operating budget where it may be a one-time event, 50, 100K of it, or maybe look at funding that portion of it separately and not part of the operating budget? So that's where my question is driving. I'd like to just get your response as far as what the breakout is.
So, I mean, that's kind of a difficult question for me to answer. I mean, I can only speak on this current fiscal year. As Mike was saying, we had a number of significant long-term injuries. I've been, you know, either the chief or the assistant chief for the past 10 years. I haven't seen anything to this extent. Luckily, we have most of our people back. You know, typically we have somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 4 to 6 long-term injuries during the course of any given year. So it's almost a given, I mean, due to the nature of our job. I do not have the numbers specifically in front of me that breaks down our overtime cost in total, you know. So, you know, we have different leave factors, vacation, sick, you know, a bunch of different leave factors that are all averaged into that accounts for this overtime figure.
Could I pipe in too, David? This
Yeah.
is John Denizio. I was just wanted to say when the request was first made, you may have noticed when they were showing the sheets that the department request was much higher, and we did talk a lot about that this was an exceptionally bad year, and we needed to normalize the account for sure because we were catching up on 3 years worth of wage adjustments, but that I didn't think it needed to be that high because this was an exceptionally bad year. So we tried to take it into account. You know, and tried to see what maybe it has been in the last few years and try to stick to something like that.
Thank you.
I do have a question. What is the progress towards actually getting the full complement? I know that in the past, there's been a shortage of available firefighters. Does that situation continue to exist, and what can we do to get us to a full complement?
Sure. So right now, we are 3 firefighter paramedics short. And we have a anticipated retirement in September. So we've been working with our Human Resources Director, Joanne Faust, the past month or so to fill these positions. So it's our goal to have these 3 current vacancies and 1 anticipated vacancy filled within a relatively short period of time. So the past several years, even though we've added staffing to our department, we're beginning to see a lot of our senior members retire. So as we bring on 1 or 2 members, we lose 1 or 2 members due to retirement. So it's kind of a balancing act. And we certainly hope to catch up and level the playing field within the next month or so.
In the pipeline coming out of the firefighter academy is looking stronger these days, or is it still kind of weak?
So you're saying that you're talking about the candidates themselves, or?
No, just how good is the recruiting pipeline? Like, is there a lot of available talent, or is it generally?
Well, so so the Burlington Fire Department falls under civil service.
Okay.
So when we fill vacancies, we request a list of candidates through civil service. So I'm pleased to announce that this group of candidates that we're looking at is a solid group of candidates, and we're looking forward to moving through the process with them. One of the issues that we're going to be now faced with is that the Mass Fire Academy is going to be shutting down. There's a current class that we have, one of our members actually is part of it, but due to the COVID-19, after this group, they're going to shut the Mass Fire Academy down. So that's going to have some bearing on us. But we're going to have some discussions with the town administrator, the assistant town manager, and our union to come up with some solutions in case of a prolonged academy closure.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Are there other questions? Okay. Roll call vote. Support of the fire budget. Brad Bond,
Yes.
Diane Creedon. Yes.
Yes.
Doug Tate,
Yes.
Frank Monaco,
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
Thank you. Guy Sherry,
Yes.
John Eiler,
Yes.
Mike Hardy,
Yes.
Phil Gallagher. Bill? And we lost Phil. Sonia,
Yes.
Steve Moran,
Yes.
did I miss it, Steve?
Yes.
Ah, okay, half a mute. Susan Aragon,
Yes.
thank you. 11 in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. And wait. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Roger, and thank you for the committee for the continued support. You know, just for a quick update, we did roll out our paramedic program about 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago actually. So our ambulance one is running at the ALS or paramedic level. We've been running at the ALS level 24/7 since we threw the switch. So we're very proud of that. Unfortunately, it wasn't very highly publicized because of COVID-19, obviously, but something we're really proud of, and we'd like to thank the members of your board for supporting this as we move through this over the past few years.
That's great news.
Yeah, good news. Mike, you're gonna stick around for emergency management?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Congratulations on the ALS certification.
But thank you very much. We're real excited about this. We're looking forward to delivering the service. Surprisingly, the runs have been down for us because of this virus. Fire runs and EMS runs have dramatically been reduced. basically the town when the town shuts down, we see our call volume slow down as well. So
Yeah.
we're looking forward to things getting back to normal and our runs picking back up.
I'm not sure that's the right thing you want to wish for.
Well, we're in my business, the guys like to keep themselves busy.
Well, there is that, yes. And you're always there to help.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's probably
And
going to
that's
be,
what we can continue to do.
the dam's probably going to burst when, when the COVID-19 slows down. All the other regular stuff is going to really pick up, I would imagine.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Plus, you don't have nearly as many people in town, right? Because of work shutdowns.
No, absolutely. You go from, 125, 100,000 people a day coming through Burlington to, to really being back toward that 1960 community,
Yeah.
So certainly a lot of this certainly has a bearing on the number of people in and out our community.
Yeah. All right. Shall we move on to emergency management budget, Mike?
Sure.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Emergency management, again, Phil and I met with Mike and Andy. This one, it's pretty straightforward budget. Let me just pull it up here for myself. So I'm looking at the main budget sheet page. Everything is level funded. Salaries level funded, expenses level funded, special accounts level funded. One thing to note is with Mr. Patterson taking over as chief of the department, his role has changed with regards to emergency management. So he's now considered the emergency management director. And Andy, Mike, what's Andy's last name?
Connerty, Andy Connerty.
Andy Connerty is now the deputy director for emergency management, and in that role, he is the person who will receive the stipend that's shown on the salaries line. Expenses, I said level funded. For the most part, it's been over the past several years building up of materials and supplies for emergency management, and we have. I think Mike said there were three trailers now parked at fire headquarters that containing the materials and supplies for our emergency management, and we'll be getting to the point soon where we have all our supplies upgraded, and then we may move into other areas in terms of expenses to focus on, and special accounts. Likewise, level funded, so pretty clean budget. Subcommittee voted 2-0 and to support it.
All right. Chief Patterson, is there anything to add on this one?
No, I mean, Mike did a real good job going over this, hit on all the key points. For the past several years, you've heard me talk about sheltering supplies. So, most of our emergency management equipment is all sheltering related. So we have a full complement of sheltering equipment. We have a few more pieces that we need to add. But as Mike said, we may be looking to change the focus away from sheltering in the coming years and to focus on other type of emergency management items.
All right. Anyone in the committee have questions?
Yes, please.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Chief, I mean, obviously we're kind of in the middle of an emergency now. I'm curious, what kind of coordination you folks might have done with Leahy, perhaps to deal with a potential surge there, or other
Sure.
issues related to the whole COVID issue.
Yeah, well, I mean, as the emergency management director, I am in daily communication with our Region 4, Region 1 representative out of MEMA. So the state has a website. It's called WebEOC. So I'm on that on a daily basis, updating the Commonwealth with information. We've on 2 occasions I've made requests for PPE through the state stockpile. So there's been constant communication between myself and MEMA, and it's so far going on WebEOC has paid off for us, because we put in a request for police and fire for protective masks, and we received a shipment over the weekend. So it's constant communication with the state, constantly evolving, and the state's been really good to us.
Is it your sense that Leahy would require some assistance from the town in the event that there is more of a surge?
So Leahy, being a hospital, has to go through the Department of Public Health for requests. So, it's like Burlington, the town of Burlington, public safety would go through MEMA for any type of request. But we've been working hand in hand really with Leahy Hospital the past month. Our EMS officer, Lieutenant Sayer, is in constant communication with Leahy. Leahy has been very good to our department the past couple of weeks as we work through testing some of our members for COVID-19, and they've been a great partner to us. So constantly in contact. We're working on a daily basis with our own Board of Health Director, Sue Luminello. So, emergency management is very active during this period, and so far the communication between the town and the state has been strong.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Other questions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right. Another roll call vote. Red Bond,
Yes.
Diane Creedon, Doug Davison,
Yes.
Doug, did you say yes? Did you?
Yes.
Doug Tate,
Yes.
Frank Monaco,
Frank Monaco, yes.
Guy Cherie,
Yes.
John Eiler,
Yes.
Mike Hardy,
Yes.
Phil Gallagher. Nope, I think we lost him.
Yeah, I
Sonia?
think Phil's not connected.
Right. I don't see him on the list. So, Sonia?
Yes.
I missed that, Sonia. Oh, you're saying something.
Oh, yes.
Oh, thank you. Steve Moran,
Yes.
Susan Harrigan,
Susan is muted.
right. Susan? Thank you. Okay, great. 11 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions. Great.
Well, once
Thank
again,
you.
thank you very much, Roger.
Yep.
Thanks, Mike.
Look forward to seeing everybody in better times.
Great.
All right, hang in there, keep the faith.
Will do.
All right, I'm going to hang up.
Yep.
All right, good night.
All right. I think that concludes Town Hall 2's agenda items for today. Shall we move on to Town Hall 1 and the Treasurer Collector's budget? Department 145?
Okay.
Frank?
This is Frank. Brian, you're on, right, Brian?
Yes, yes, I am.
Okay, so let me introduce this and then I'll turn this one over to Brian. We did meet, we did not have a full subcommittee, so I don't have a subcommittee recommendation, but we went over all the points. And the only thing of note here really is this is going to be a turnover from Brian, the recently hired treasurer collector for FY21. And the way they have set it up, salary is a wash. In other words, Brian's salary and the incoming salary will be a match. So the line will transfer from elected and appointed to full-time. So you'll see drops and big jumps in those line items, but the dollar value simply doesn't change. The only other thing that we did talk about, and Paul and Brian may want to just cover it a bit more. This is a big office, obviously, and the turnover is something we want to be careful about. There is some money available in the treasurer's budget to handle some maybe mid-May and June turnover. If we go beyond that, then the plan is to come into Ways and Means for a reserve fund transfer rather than put extra money into the operating budget. We don't even know if we'll need it. So I just wanted to point that out, and Paul may want to say more on that one. Other than that, this is a very straightforward budget, and I think Brian has prepared it, and it's going to be a pretty clean handoff. And we won't have much of a chance to celebrate with this virtual meeting stuff, but from my point of view, a huge shout out to Brian. I've truly enjoyed working with Brian, and this is kind of his last shot. So that's all I've got on that one.
All right. Thank you. Brian, do you have anything to add?
No, I think Frank covered it. I'll answer any questions if the committee has any questions. Thank you, Frank.
All right. Questions, anyone?
Yes, please.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious, have we seen any drop in receipts during the recent crisis here, or has that affected things at all that way?
Not yet, John. It's really hard to predict because, you know, we've been working the last 2 weeks. It's been difficult because my staff is relocated. I have 2 staff members that are up at Council on Aging, and I'm in the town hall with the person that does the payroll and a couple other staff members. But we've been processing all the payments. They've been coming in. The tax bills just went out for the fourth quarter. There's been legislation passed to allow, which the selectmen are going to take up Monday evening, emergency legislation to allow the town to allow taxpayers to pay their fourth quarter bill by June 1st without penalty. But, you know, most residential taxpayers pay by escrow anyway, so we're probably going to get a lot of that money. It'll be interesting to see how many businesses may not pay on time. Too hard to predict right now, John. It's just too early in the game. This is only April 8th, but, you know, we've only been into this for now like 2 weeks, and we're still processing payments and making deposits. Hard to analyze right now if we're going to be off that much. I'd say in another month we'll be able to analyze that better.
Okay, great. We'll see.
Right.
Hey, Roger, I have a question. This is Mike.
Yeah, Mike. Go ahead.
First, I'd like to kind of echo Frank's sentiments and say, Brian, I think you've done a great job. Since I've been on the committee, it's very apparent how well things are run, and I know you have a lot of years of service with the town. So thank you and congratulations on your retirement. This is sort of news to me. I guess I'm out of the loop on this, but who is coming in as the new treasurer?
Gary Giannino, your neighbor.
Ah, really?
Yes.
Okay. I guess my neighbors aren't keeping me up to date. Okay.
When is your last day, Brian?
Yes.
When is your last day?
I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, when is your last day?
Oh, well, it's supposed to be June 30th. We're waiting to see, hopefully, Gary's still working at his, prior employment. He's supposed to come on somewhere between, in May, hopefully by the middle of May. And then, we're going to work together for hopefully 6 weeks or so. And it depends on how long it takes. But my last day is supposed to be June 30th. But as I've told Paul and administration, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be around if they need me, obviously. So.
Well, congratulations ahead of time. I think it's for the 36 plus years or something like that.
44.
Oh, excuse me, 44, I'm sorry.
Counting.
Thank you. Yeah, who's counting?
That's not just one gold watch. Isn't that 2 gold watches? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Roger, I had a quick question too, David here. As part of Town Hall 1, Brian, I'm disappointed I didn't get to attend our last subcommittee meeting, but I'll echo Frank and Mike's comments that you've been a pure asset to the town, and appreciate all of our one-on-one discussions and budget reviews over the years. It's been a pleasure, and I know I'm going to see you around town, so it isn't a goodbye. Did have one.
No, it isn't. Thank you, David.
One question, just with Gary coming in, is this being done at a certain level and not being done as part of a group or step process? I see that there isn't anything on the sheet that reflects that. So
You're talking about his salary?
yes. So when you look at
Yeah, we just funded it exactly what I would have gotten. And then, I think the select still have to negotiate with him what his, step is going to be in the administrative and professional plan and where he's going to fall. I think they just, as a placeholder, Paul and John asked me to just leave the number that I would have gotten there. But, it might be a lesser number, it might be more. I don't know what the selectmen are planning, honestly.
Got it. Thank you, Brian.
No problem.
Good question. Okay, any other questions on the treasurer collector budget?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Well, sorry, Brad Bond?
Yes.
Sorry, was there a question? Thank you, Brad. Diane? Doug Davison?
Yes.
Douglas Tate?
David Tate, but yes.
David Tate. I'm sorry, David. Sorry, I said your name wrong several times. Frank Monaco.
Once.
Yes.
Jayashri. John Eiler.
Yes.
Mike Hardy.
Yes.
We lost Phil. Sonia.
Yes.
Steve Moran.
Yes.
Susan Harrigan. Susan Harrigan. Thank you. All right. Looks like 11 in favor, 0 opposed, no abstentions. All right, Frank, shall we move on
Thank
to
you.
Central? Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, so Brian, don't run away, okay?
Oh, I'm not going anywhere, Frank. I know I'm going to be on for a while here.
At least another couple of years. Okay, so we're doing central admin next, Roger?
Yes, please.
Okay. So central admin, just as a housekeeping thing here, I'm assuming, Roger, that we vote, which is in this budget, 32B, the health insurance, OPEB, as separate votes.
Yes, that's what we
Okay.
have to do.
All right. So first of all, outside of 32B and OPEB, we actually didn't spend much time on in a limited subcommittee meeting. I've read it and it's pretty straight. It's very straightforward. Paul or John may want to say a few words on that, and then I'd say we vote the central admin, and then come back to 32B and OPEB. Okay?
Great. Yes, please.
So Paul or John, do one of you want to comment at all on the rest of that budget? I mean, it's dead flat.
That's what we have Whitney for. Whitney,
Okay, so Whitney,
Sorry.
and the only thing would be,
Sorry, I just had to
The-
unmute myself. Go ahead.
yeah, so the town insurance is one item you might want to comment on.
Yeah, so
We've actually
the-
already voted that.
Did we?
Roger?
Well, I've been,
Roger?
Yes, I believe we did last week. Or,
Yes,
sorry.
I presented.
great. Did we pass it?
We did.
Yes, we did.
Okay, so, good job, Whitney.
Thank
Are
you.
Were there comments that we might have missed?
No, the only thing is that the town insurance is up, and that's not supposed, right? But you've already complicate this.
All right, you're breaking up a little bit, Frank. I don't know why. What
I don't know.
FedEx or what?
I don't think talking slow is going to help. All right, let's take 32B. So Brian, I'll need you to go over the backup, I think, first. So hopefully everybody got, this is the standard backup that Brian does. He does sort of a recapitulation to get trends and expenses. He grosses the amount, and we add all this up to get a gross number. The overall increase is extremely reasonable. We ought to really be thankful for this. So the overall grossed up amount is 14,472,730. Brian, you might want to go over the spreadsheet a little bit for the committee.
Sure.
But this is a standard fare.
Yeah, well, Frank, if you look at it, I just take what the actual claims were, because we do this on a calendar year basis. We have the actual claims through 12/31/19. You see Harvard, Pilgrim, and Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Those are the active members that aren't in the Medicare products. And then we trend that up by 5%. It was 5.5%. And it comes to the 13,165,437. And then the administrative fee is what we pay the two carriers for the administration, both Harvard and Blue Cross. And that's been pretty consistent the last couple of years. And then the stop loss insurance, obviously, is our deductible is $125,000 a year, and that's based on the number of members we're covering. And we put that out to bid every year with our financial advisor, who helps us manage healthcare. And then that's the total cost of $14,965,437. We take a mid-year increase because of the fact that it's a, that's the calendar year, but then, we're on a fiscal year basis. We say could go up about 3%, claims and so forth. So we get to the 400 rather. And then the town's share of the health insurance budget is 70%. The town pays 70%, and that gets you to the $10,790,080. And then the other money, the health reimbursement account and health savings reimbursement, $520,000. And the same with the administration fee. Those two programs is $52,000. Total estimated cost $11,362,080. And then the senior plans, we take what the costs were from last year. We use another 3% on that, and that comes out to that $2,940,650. And that plus the life insurance and Medicare retiree costs in a diabetes program we have for 123,000, which we get to that 14,472,730. That's the total that I estimate for health insurance for fiscal year 21.
Okay, thank you, Brian. I'd like to make a couple more comments on this, Brian, if I may, for the committee.
Sure.
One is that I think you left the stop loss alone from last year. In other words, we're taking a little bit more risk and got the cost of that down. So
Actually, Frank, it's the same. Stop loss deductible is the same, 125,000.
right. So that's
You know,
sort
the
of,
cost went up a little bit because, you know, it's based on the number of chronic claims that you have.
right.
And, you know, we had a couple of additional bad claimants. Fortunately, you know, well, we lost a couple, obviously, people have passed away, but it's based on your claims when they take a picture of it as of like, the end of December of 2019, goes out for. So the price for the, you know, went up slightly. I think last year we had for stop loss was $1,088,100,000 is what I budgeted.
Yeah, so I think it's really a great way to do this, given that we're self-insured. We get the benefit of not getting a runaway. One other thing that we did talk about, well, two things I want to mention. First of all, on the diabetes program, that's really an important program. And even though you might think it's a little bit expensive, it really, in the long run, saves probably a ton of money by having better health experience in our especially in our active space. So I think that's well worth it. And the other thing we talked about is whether we saw any impact from the COVID coverages that are probably going to come through. We're self-insured, so we talked about this, Brian and Paul and John and I. If and the selectmen are probably going to agree to cover full costs of any COVID experience that comes to the town. And if that turns out to be a lot, then we'll use monies that are in the trust fund that are available to us to cover it. I think at this point it's totally unpredictable, and rather than mess with the operating budget for health insurance, we should just see what that experience turns out to be. We do have the money to cover it if whatever it turns out to be, almost guaranteed. So I thought we should comment on that, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Frank. The diabetes program is very, very worthwhile. We've got, I think we have 19 enrolled and 16 of the 19 are compliant. And that has saved us a lot of money over the last probably 4 years that we've had that program. So I think, obviously, anytime somebody is seriously ill with diabetes and goes in the hospital, our claims could be a lot more. But that monitors everybody's diabetes on a weekly, monthly basis, which helps reduce, I think, claims overall. What was the other question, Frank?
I think that's the last of it.
Okay.
Just if we
Frank?
use the trust.
Roger, one follow-up for me.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Brian, what is in the trust fund right now to share with the committee?
Yep, I think Whitney sent everybody, or should have sent everybody out a sheet of the trust fund balances. And we have, for the active programs that, you know, we keep money in these accounts to pay the monthly claims experience. There's the active trust funds is $4,330,315 as of March 31st. And then the money we have invested in Rockland, the investment account, which is the excess money that we've had built up over the last several years, is $5,828,531 for a total of $10,158,846. So we've got a really solid trust fund balance for health insurance, $10 million.
And that's absolutely very important to have, as we've seen before when it's gotten low, that the problems that can arise and the costs that are associated. So that is healthy. Question is again, at what point does it become enough? And do you ever look at the possibility of, I guess, lowering costs by utilizing some of those funds?
I mean, obviously, David, I think that's a decision the administration makes on an annual basis with when we're negotiating with the unions. We try to, as we budget the total health insurance costs on an annual basis, we look at what claims are trending and so forth, and we've been able to keep this down for the last 5 years of under 5% pretty much. The budget's going up 5%, but the actual premiums that we're charging the employees and so forth have been averaging, under 5%, which is really great. We've had really good claims experience for over 5-6 years. Ever since we went to the high deductible programs, this has been a real, savings for the town. Like anything, claims can go, bad in 1 year or so, but that's why we have the stop loss insurance. But you could even have a really bad year, fortunately, and we don't have any employees that we're aware of that has this new virus, thank God. I haven't heard of any anyway at this point in time. But those kind of claims could really hurt you when something like a pandemic happens. So we've got a trust fund that obviously is important. Our claims on a monthly basis are, we're paying almost $1 million a month in claims costs in total between the employees and the town. So 3 months of claims, which is a rollout when you switch to different programs, is over $3 million. It could be almost close to $4 million, and that's what is the money in the active trust funds. The real money that's sitting aside for us to help us if things get bad is that $5 million, $5.8 million that would help us if we needed it for a bad year. So we're really in a good position right now compared to most places, most towns.
All right. Sounds good. Is there anything else, Frank, or can we open it up for questions? All right. Anyone on the committee have questions?
I have a question. This is Doug.
Go ahead.
Is there a point when when that health insurance fund gets large enough that David said maybe you use it to cut down on some of the expenses for a year, but can't that also be transferred to OPEB? Because isn't that one of the places that if we got in trouble, you could bring money back out of that OPEB account? Isn't that one of the uses of that OPEB account? If we needed to, like when we talk about OPEB, we always say, well, you could use it to fund current health insurance.
We wouldn't be doing that at this point in time, David. That's not my understanding of what we'd use OPEB for now. It would be once things are fully funded at some point in the future, we'd be using those money to reduce your health insurance budget in the future, but not at this point in time.
Right. No, I meant the other way. Is it something that if this were to grow and you said, okay, well, there's a little too much money in there for a safety net, and we put it into OPEB to try to accelerate our payments into OPEB, if in the future this line got in a little bit of trouble, can't you take some back from OPEB because you would still be using it for health insurance? That was my question.
I think that's something that John and Paul could answer if, that might be something that could be done in the future. Is that possible?
Doug, from a technical standpoint, the monies we set aside in the OPEB trust could be accessed in a disaster situation to fund employee health insurance. Obviously, that's the opposite of what we're trying to do with the fund at this point. So that would be something that would really be one of a thing of last resort. And just to answer your other question, Doug, I think you also mentioned about excess money in the health insurance trust fund. When is enough there? I think we were approaching the year we were going to start talking about that, whether or not the trust fund balance was at a good point where we could start to work to utilize some of that money to work the cost down. And, now we're in the current situation of a little bit of unknown. And just from a standpoint of using that trust fund balance to put into OPEB, I would say that we've done that in the past. The only thing we would have to do is work with our employee health insurance group, because technically those funds in the trust fund are 70% town and 30% employee. So we would have to come to some agreement that was a good use of the health insurance trust funds, because it's not all town funded.
Okay, thank you.
So Roger, this is Frank. I got bumped off a while ago. I don't even know where we are now.
I think we're just answering follow-up questions on the health insurance.
32B, okay.
Yep.
So we need to vote on that one separately.
Right. Are there any other questions? If not, can I have a motion?
This is Frank, motion to approve 14,472, 730.
I second.
All right. We'll have to do a roll call here. Brad Bond,
Yes.
Diane Creedon, I think I heard something. Doug Davidson,
Yes.
David Tate,
Yes.
Mike Monaco. Yes, Frank? Yeah, Cherie,
Yes.
John Eiler,
Yes.
Mike Hardy,
Yes.
we lost Phil, Sonia,
Yes.
Sonia, do we have you on mute?
I am not on mute, Mr. Chairman. My vote
All
is
right.
yes.
All right, sorry, it didn't come through, probably on my end.
problem.
Steve Moran, interesting.
He's on mute.
He is muted.
Yep.
I can fix that. Steve,
Yeah, sorry, I've been muting with the Jabra speaker I have. Yes, yes.
Thank you. I think did I miss anything? No, all right. Frank, let's move on. I think the result is 11 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions.
Okay, next will be OPEB. So we've already had a pretty significant meeting on the recap of the last audit. And so the proposal here is simply to follow the schedule, which is the annual 9.3% increase, which in theory would get us to a pay down, out another, I don't know, 30 years, 20 plus years. So I am recommending, and I think that the administration supported it, that we go ahead with this. Although we all know, well, we know that there's a lot we don't know that's going to happen in these funds. And we also don't know, and somebody brought this up earlier on receivables and receipts and whatnot. So we have no idea where we're really going to end up on revenues in the second half of this year. And for sure, going into 21, there'll be impact. The feeling is we don't have to spend this money, right? This is discretionary, but it's a program. Rather than blow the program up with so many unknowns, the recommendation is we go ahead and fund the $779,957, leave it on the budget, bring it out in June when we have town meeting. And unless we have a lot of information that says we need to start holding money back, we would just go ahead and fund this at this level. That's the recommendation. Next year, we'll clearly be revisiting this with a lot more data because this is a place where we can conceivably hold out some cash or hold out tax revenue if we needed to. But at this point, I would suggest we go ahead and approve it as planned. And I don't know, Paul or Brian may want to comment on that, or John, but that's where we sit.
I agree, Frank. This is Brian. I think that we should fund it. We don't know what, the ramifications of this slowdown is going to do to our receipts. We may be okay. And this is a program, it's a funding schedule. We have another 25 years to go to fund it. And I think that the thinking would be, as you know, the last couple of years, we've had extra money to put towards the OPEB funds. And those monies that if the health insurance at the end of the fiscal year still has funds in it, we could, maybe use those funds for something other than putting it in OPEB to make up the shortfall. I think we should continue with the funding schedule. That's my recommendation.
If I could just add, for the committee's benefit, I do believe that we should move forward with the budget guidelines we set. If this budget is approved, I can tell you this, we will not make that payment on July 1st. We can continue to wait prior to doing that, and at least until the September town meeting, just to get a better understanding of what's happening with the economy. And then we can make a better decision in September. If September comes along and we need to cut back on this payment or make this payment zero, we have a discussion leading up to September town meeting. And if so, we can go back to September town meeting and actually reduce this to utilize funds in a different area, or depending upon, what's going on with values in the town, and we'll have a better idea of how local receipts have been impacted. I mean, the obvious is hotel, motel tax and meals tax are going to get absolutely destroyed pretty much for the fourth quarter of this year. We're okay for this year. We think we'll be able to meet our obligation that we budgeted, but that'll have a direct impact on our free cash next year, obviously. But again, I think, and I know John and I have been in constant contact with Superintendent Conti and Nicole, and Susan can weigh in on this too, but I think to make radical changes to the course that we picked at this point, I think is detrimental. It will be detrimental to the programs and operations. And what I would respectfully suggest is we're extremely conservative for just this reason. So what I'm suggesting is we continue on the same path. I can tell you that on the town side, we won't be making any unnecessary expenditures. If we're authorized for a position, we'll be considering whether to fill that very carefully on July 1st. Because we're going to play next year's budget starting on July 1st. It's still going to be a lot of uncertainty. So we're not going to move forward with things like the OPEB payment or, again, filling a position unless it's, like a firefighter we just talked about. It's difficult to fill those positions. So we don't have to carefully review all our spending starting on July 1st and just not do stuff that we don't have to spend money on, and then give us a more time to sort of evaluate how this situation has affected our local economy. And again, and just talking to Eric and Nicole, we're in constant communication, and obviously Ways and Means gets a say in what we decide to do for next year, and town meeting ultimately decides. But that we just feel that, I mean, we're technically 1 month away from where town meeting should have been. All the budgets have been approved, and I know that Susan can weigh in on the tremendous amount of work that goes into the school budget through this point of the year. And I think it's really disruptive to programs and to students and to everything to try to reverse course. And I will say again, we've always been very proud of our conservatism. And the reason why we're conservative is just for times like this. And I think what our conservatism will buy us this time is just time to evaluate things and to make better decisions. We may have to make radical changes to our budget guidelines for next year. But I think the best way for us to do that without impacting people and programs and disrupting services is to take some time to consider, how to come up with the least harmful cuts to the budget. And again, that's a large sum synopsis, but I think the OPEB payment is a perfect example of how we handle it. If we're authorized for this, we're not making that payment on July 1st. We're going to wait and see. We'll see how the year goes. We have September before we set the tax rate to make actual adjustments to the budget. We may hold off on that payment even further just to see how things evolve over the entire fiscal year. But I think it's clearly the fact that we have such a robust local economy and businesses, that we're clearly in danger of being hit, more than the average town in this situation, because so much of our revenue is derived from that sector. But we have our eyes on it, and we just want to have the proper time to plan out any future reductions in service. And I know from the school standpoint that they feel very strongly about that as well. And I'll defer to Susan to sort of talk about how far along they are in their process.
So, Roger, if I may, so Paul, you're recommending that we go ahead and approve this, which would put it, it would be an approved FAR expenditure. The administration will decide on when and if to actually let the money out, is the way you're looking at this.
Yes, and I would commit to the committee right now that we would not let it out until a minimum of the September town meeting, when we all have a better chance to sort of evaluate where we are.
Okay, fair enough. And the other thing we might want to point out, we're holding 8 million plus in stabilization and 9 million plus in free cash after we spend all the proposed free cash utilizations in 21, correct?
That's correct. We whittled back some of the free cash expenditures that we have done over the past few years, things like paying down debt and things of that nature. Again, with the goal, understanding that free cash is going to be the first thing to suffer from us due to our local economy and local receipts being down. And we wanted to make sure that, again, just the conservative nature, we were using that free cash for one-time expenditures so that we don't have to utilize it. So I think our recommendation would be to cut down the amount of free cash that we used over the past few years and carry over more of it to have available to help us solve problems in the upcoming year.
Okay.
All right, I think that makes sense. Other questions of the committee?
Yes, please.
Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, actually, I just wanted to throw out another data point here. Brian has been really helpful back in February, is just looking at some of the OPEB stuff in terms of the timing of deposits that were made and what the current balance. And so the interesting data point is that as of December 31st, and obviously this has changed a bit with the way the market's gone, but as of December 31st, the internal rate of return for that OPEB money has been 8.3%. So that was pretty encouraging to me, that the actual return we're seeing on the investments we're making in OPEB is in line with what the actuarial assumptions have been. So that was an encouraging data point for me. And, certainly the bright side of looking at the stock market being down is just an opportunity to buy low for us.
Yep, dollar cost averaging is a great stabilizing technique. Other questions? More questions?
So I'd offer a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman. This is Frank at 779, 957, 9.3%.
Thanks, Frank.
Second.
That's Steve?
Yeah, I'll second.
And David. All right. Okay, so voting on OPEB. Brad Bond?
Yes.
Diane Creedon? Doug Davison?
Yes.
David Tate?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Yai Cherie?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Mike Hardy?
Yes.
Tony Rollins?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Thank you. 11 in favor, 0 opposed, and no abstentions. Frank, what's next? Frank, I think you're muted, but I'm going to fix that. Frank, what's next?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I went from red to black. Debt service. So John has prepared a memo, and there's a schedule for this with the 5-year outlook. So really the bottom line on this is anything that we've already put out that we're paying bonds on is in flight, and we're going to service those. There's not a lot coming up, and if anything else comes up, like on the DPW, we'd probably just issue a bond anticipation note and wait and see what the market does. I'm guessing, Brian and crew, that we did not do any refinancing on any of the existing debt back a few months ago. The rates went really low, but then that kind of disappeared. So we've left all of our schedules alone, if I'm correct.
Correct.
Yeah. So as you read this memo, it's a total here of what? $7,004,377. It's well within the guidelines of how we've constructed our operating budget. It's about less than 5% of the operating budget. It's honestly, that's very low. So I would move to approve this, and there's really nothing to change right now. I don't think at all.
Okay.
The administration probably wants to add a few comments here.
Ryan, Paul, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add. I think that, we're trying to keep the budget, around that amount, the $7 million amount. It includes all the projects that we have planned. I don't know if Paul and John want to add anything, but we're pretty happy with the debt schedule now, and it's always changing, as we know.
Just a statement that we do have funds factored in going forward for potential projects at the school department. So I know that they're going to be doing some engineering studies and building studies to sort of sort out their needs in the upcoming year. And again, the budget, the schedule is built to support those projects. Not all on the same day, but certainly over the next period of time. We have slots of funding built in for the town's anticipated needs, and town meeting will ultimately decide what those needs are. But I think that we're all generally in agreement that schools are in line for some funding for their buildings. So we're just waiting for them to decide necessarily which of their projects that they want to prioritize.
So if you excuse me, Roger, so this is Frank, just to piggyback on that. So the 5-year plan that you guys have got together does incorporate that. And we've obviously got room for it based on the 4.7% we're running at. One would think that in the out years here, the next, I would guess, 1 to 4 years, that financing of debt is still going to be very favorable for munis. That's the hope. And so that all looks pretty favorable for us issuing a couple more projects as it becomes timely. And schools, I guess, is really the next thing up at this point. That and the DPW, right, Paul? Can't hear you, Paul.
You're still on mute, Paul.
I just had a great statement too. Yes, the DPW, everything is factored into the schedule. And again, we also have amounts filled in for anticipated school projects. There's also an amount anticipated for a police station out there in the future, a little bit further out. So we're trying to manage these and understand when we can afford to borrow. Everything's built into the schedule, but we still have to fit the payment in. So we monitor this thing very closely, and we're really happy with the work that's been done there. We've built up a good capacity to borrow funds in the future. And again, I think that over the next 10 years, I think we'll be able to solve a lot of the remaining town's building needs. And again, we have to start over at the beginning at some point, but we're going to be investing in buildings for the rest of the town's history, and I think we've got a really good handle around it with this debt schedule, and we're happy with where that number is, and we do feel confident that we can build in projects as we move forward.
All right, great. Do we vote the bottom line for principal and interest together?
Yes, please.
All right. Can I have a motion, please?
I
So moved.
I move 7,403.77 for 1.77%.
You meant 7 million, right?
What did I say? 1,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's 3 zeros?
Anyway, as proposed, right? All right.
Yeah.
A second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Another roll call vote. Brad Bond, please.
Yes.
Diane Creedon. Thank you. Doug Davison.
Yes.
David Tate.
Yes.
Frank Monaco.
Yes.
Guy Cherie.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Mike Hardy.
Yes.
Sonia Rollins.
Yes.
Steve Moran.
Yes.
Susan Harrigan.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, thank you. 11 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions. What's next, Frank?
Negotiated settlement budget. Whitney gave us a memo. There's a little backup on this. Basically, we've got 2 major contracts open, plus the A&P. They've asked to, as a bucket, sideline $500,000, and that seems kind of commensurate with what we've done in the past, where we've had more to negotiate. So this is, it looks like a sufficient amount of money, and we'll, as we've mentioned in both the fire and the police, we'll draw on this when the time comes, as well as the A&P. I don't see anything here that's, at all unusual.
All right. Thank you. Anyone, John or Paul, do you have anything to add on this? Or Whitney? All right.
I will say that there will be warrant articles who transfer from negotiated settlements for patrol. That contract has settled. And we anticipate having one for A&P. I'm not sure about fire yet.
All right. Great. Questions of the committee?
Chairman, motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Here we go again. Brad Bond?
Yes.
Thank you. Diane Creedon? Doug Davison?
Yes.
David Tate?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes, for Frank.
Guy Cherie?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Mike Hardy?
Yes.
Sonia Rollins?
Yes.
Thank you. Steve Moran?
Yes.
Susan Harrigan?
Yes.
Thank you. 11 in favor, 0 opposed, no abstentions. Okay, Frank.
Okay, last but not least, Middlesex Retirement. So this is actually kind of awarded to us by the county. They are continuing on with their schedule, just as we are with our OPEB schedule, on the funding of the outstanding liability. Our assessment this year is $10,675,811 at 6.89%. What we don't know is what we don't know. That fund may or may not run into some reconsiderations as we get well into next year, but they'll cross that bridge when they come to it, as would we. So this is right in line with the schedule. And Brian sits on this board. He's got a whole lot more background, I guess, if you need it.
Yeah, I'll answer any questions if there's any questions, Frank.
Questions, anyone?
Chairman,
I have
motion. Oh,
just one quick one, Brian. You sit on the board. You're retiring. Is that a legacy thing that Gary may jump into, or is this an elected board that will probably lose the representation on the board?
I have a 3-year term. I have another year and a half on my term. So my term doesn't expire until December of 2021. So I will still be representing the town on that board, fortunately. So, and who knows, I might even be able to continue into the future. You don't know. We'll see if I get reelected.
That's a town election position, correct?
No, it's elected by the members of the Middlesex County Treasurers. I've been the only elected member of the Middlesex retirement when they changed the legislation. I've been on the board since 1980.
You don't have to be a sitting treasurer to be on the committee.
I do. My term gets grandfathered because I got elected, so there's a possibility I could end up as a treasurer somewhere else. You never know.
Got it.
I'm safe for a year and a half, to answer the question.
Excellent. Thanks, Brian.
All right. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
so moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Thank you. Sonia and Steve. All right, roll call. Brad Bond,
Yes.
Diane Creedon, Doug Davison,
Yes.
David Tate,
Yes.
Frank Monaco,
Frank Monaco, yes.
Guy Cherie,
Yes.
John Eiler,
Yes.
Mike Hardy,
Yes.
Sonia Rollins,
Yes.
Steve Moran,
Yes.
Susan Harrigan.
Yes.
Thank you. 11 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstention. I have a feeling we're at the end of the agenda, unless I forgot.
Roger, may I interrupt,
Yes.
Roger? One question. There is
Yes,
one
David.
line item still on the central admin budget that hasn't been voted. It's that pension reimbursement for $1,300.
Oh, right, let's do
We did-
that.
We did not address that. This is a dual pension issue that's been one person that's still part of this this pension reimbursement. And Brian, I think it's Swampscott or something, has to reimburse their town for
We
his
have to
portion.
Correct. We do. That's under the law. We don't have any choice. We've been doing that for a number of years until the person is deceased.
Okay, do you have the amount handy? I think maybe you just said it and I missed it.
1,256.
Okay.
And obviously
All right.
level funded.
Yeah. Questions, anyone?
Chairman, motion to approve.
Second. Second.
Thank you, Steve and Sonia. One more roll call. Brad Bond,
Yes.
Diane Creedon, Doug Davison, David Tate,
Yes.
Frank Monaco,
Yes.
Yaya Cherie,
Yes.
John Eiler,
Yes.
Mike Hardy,
Yes.
Sonia Rollins,
Yes.
Steve Moran,
Yes.
and Susan Harrigan.
Yes.
Thank you. 11-0-0. This is actually, there is one more item on the agenda. The minutes of March 4th. Seems like a long time ago. Are they fresh enough that we can vote on accepting the minutes? I didn't recirculate them this time, but so if we want to put it off till next week, we can do that. And I don't have them handy. All right, let's put it off till next week. I'll send them around again.
Roger, I have one other thing I thought I'd mention.
Go ahead, Mike.
So with the police department moving two positions that were funded by grants into regular paid positions, it made me wonder whether during our budget season we'd want to get a kind of a listing from the department heads or somebody on what positions they have that are funded by grants, so we have a little heads up on things like that. Because a lot of times those turn into regular positions.
I think that's a good idea. I don't remember seeing that any of that information showing up on the FTE chart that's at the beginning of the budget. But that does happen frequently, or at least periodically.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess for next year we can ask.
Yeah, I think it'd be good information to have.
I know in the schools there are frequently positions that are grant funded, and it can be fairly fluid from year to year. All right, I think that's the end of the agenda. I'm open to any comments about the process or whether this worked well or what we can do to improve it, either now or offline. Appreciate everyone's time and energy to try to utilize this new medium to have the meeting and make progress on things.
I just want to report that there was only one Facebook comment, and it was a thank you from Robin Lamb.
Oh.
There wasn't much activity on there.
All right. Did you happen to notice if more than one person was watching?
I did not see counts. Oh, 5 people are watching as of now. I didn't notice that throughout. So the 5 is really 4 and myself.
Got it. Actually, I think I'm watching too. I wanted to see what the delay was from what we were presenting to what they're seeing. So.
Oh, we just picked up one, so that's good.
Got it.
Just adjourned.
What is the agenda for next week, Roger?
I'll send it around again. It's basically picking up where we left off. So on the agenda next week is 15th is town clerk, board of registrars, several town hall 2 budgets. Planning board, board of appeals. We're going to go back to the capital improvements item that we held up before. The other big one are DPW, trash, lights, Youth and Family Services, and the Historical Commission.
And Roger, I do have the IT folks, the MIS folks did send a more detailed presentation as to capital improvements, and I can send that out to the committee this evening. I've been sitting on it a few weeks. I figured no one was interested while we were on hiatus.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I'd ask John Denizio about that and put him on the agenda for next week. So that's next week.
I'm sorry.
Yes?
How about warrants too, and the listing of those and how that's impacted with the delay in town meeting, if there is any, and what will all that is.
Right. So Paul, can I ask you to comment on the warrants? I did query you last week about where the warrants were, and you put me off a bit. So where are we?
We're developing a list and we're refining it, so we can probably get something to you relatively quickly. The due date for the warrant articles passed. So again, it's just we're having some logistical issues and putting the information together. But we can get a listing out to you. I'll follow up with staff on that one tomorrow, and we'll try to get some meetings scheduled.
All right. I think it's even just the one-liners and the departments that they're responsible to, so subcommittees can contact the department heads would give us a start. So that'd be great. And in terms of our schedule, we have plenty of time in April and the beginning of May to do warrant articles. I think, I'm not sure that I know the updated mailing date of the warrant yet, but it's probably pretty clear already.
2 weeks before, the selectmen voted to move the date of town meeting to June 10th the other night, so picked up another month of time. And I believe the bylaw says that the information gets mailed out 2 weeks before.
Yep. So I don't. Go ahead, David.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Are you going to, in fact, you think maybe even delay that a little bit just because of the economy and what's going on, and maybe deciding to delay some of the projects that may be approved today, but a month from now you may be reconsidering?
I think it makes sense for both town and schools to reconsider and at least not start anything that we can truly hold off on. You know, I think if things look a little bit better, we can move on. Again, as the administrator, I think that the town, we're going to be here. So these projects being brought forward are, you know, towards our future. So I don't want to get too far off track, but it certainly makes sense to exercise extreme caution when expending funds as we move forward. We really just want to be really careful, really deliberate. And again, if we have an authorization, does not mean that we need to move forward with something. So I would imagine that each individual article would probably have, you know, a little bit different, I don't want to say level of importance, but in terms of timing and whatnot and getting a project done, I think that we will definitely be considering each and every one of them separately.
Thanks, Paul.
Yep. And Paul, I think to your earlier comments, the administration also has a lot of discretion as to whether you actually start the projects, even if funds are approved.
Absolutely. Again, that's something that we would talk over with the department heads and just try to understand the cost of waiting versus the cost of proceeding now, and understand whether or not there's any neighborhood considerations or safety issues that we're trying to address, and try to prioritize things that way.
Yeah. I mean, I guess another view of that is we have projects we do need to do, and we are spending money in the community. That's another way that the town can help support the community, is by doing the projects. Obviously, your point about being conservative with our reserves and our planning is very important. So, all right. Okay, I don't have anything further. Anybody else? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn, as if I have to ask?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Thank you. See you all. Good night. Stay healthy and stay safe.
Thank you, Roger. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Roger. Good night, everybody.
Good night.